Every great video game story needs a good villain to add an opposing force for its protagonist to fight. That said, not every villain is so bad that we actually want to fight them. From innocent souls forced into doing bad things to tragic anti-heroes and misunderstood outcasts, the following characters are villains only in name. The true monster of the story is actually kind of you, who's destined to bring them to an undeserved end, whether you want to or not. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 video game villains you didn't want to kill, but had to. Number 10. Bloodwing, Borderlands 2. Bloodwing is the bird-like alien companion of the hunter Mordecai from the first Borderlands game. Most people who played as Mordecai in the original title have a soft spot for the bird, as Bloodwing stays close by his master's side all throughout the story, and the hunter tends to talk quite a bit about him. Unfortunately, like a lot of the original cast members in the sequel, Bloodwing doesn't get a happy ending. Handsome Jack eventually delivers Bloodwing to the great beyond, and worst off, he makes you do it with your own two hands, plus guns and turrets and all the other deadly things that come in Borderlands games. You see, in the second half of the game, when your team meets with Mordecai, Handsome Jack mutates his beloved companion and transforms him into a mindless monster that you then have to put down. It's already bad when the villain takes out a legacy character. It's even worse when he makes you do it for him. Then again, that's the kind of diabolical mindset that makes us love Handsome Jack. Number 9. Javier Escuela, Red Dead Redemption. Ever since Red Dead Redemption 2, playing the original game has become a brand new experience. The pre-sequel casts a completely different light on the events and characters of the first game. In particular, one of John's two targets from his ex-gang in the Mexico section, Javier Escuela. Although Javier may not have been an overly sympathetic character originally, his relationship with John in the second game retroactively makes your objective of taking him down in the first especially hurtful. His charming personality and loyalty he exhibits when talking with Arthur make him a likable character, and when he eventually saves John from dying in the mountains, his deep friendship with the man seems like a bond that can't be broken. Unfortunately, by the time of Red Dead Redemption 1, Javier's a shell of his former self, and to make matters worse, John needs to take him out, even though he owes him his life, in order to see his family. And yes, while you technically can capture Javier alive, the in-game dialogue makes it clear that the bandit is going to be hanged. So no matter what you do, Javier eventually gets killed by the very same man he saved. Now that's depressing, but so are a lot of things in Red Dead Redemption. Number 8. Slappy, Dead Rising 2. The Dead Rising series psychopaths are an eccentric bunch, consisting of disturbed and sadistic individuals for the most part. However, there are some of them that can make you feel pretty guilty about killing them, one of which is Slappy. Slappy is an 18-year-old mascot of a fast food chain of the same name who you encounter in Dead Rising 2. Chuck comes across the teenager as he weeps over the dead body of another mascot, a girl who Slappy had a crush on. The two of them were gonna go on a date before the zombie outbreak began, and seeing as Chuck is blamed for starting it, Slappy tries to take revenge for his dead love by attacking him. Although you kill him in self-defense, the fact that Slappy is just a teen who loses his mind due to grief doesn't make you feel particularly good about killing him, especially since in his death cutscene, he curls up to his girlfriend's corpse and dies, telling her they will both be fixed in the great, quote, toy box in heaven. Their love story is like Romeo and Juliet, if it were set in the zombie apocalypse and the two main characters were corporate mascots with oversized heads. Maybe not that much like Romeo and Juliet. Number 7. The Beat, Fury. The story of Fury, the 2016 hack and slash, is a subversive experience in which you start off thinking you're the victim, the tortured prisoner of abusive jailers, and then you end up realizing you're a world-ending threat that was kept in lockup for a reason. As you progress through the game, the jailers you fight appear less aggressive and more sympathetic, to the point when the final jailer, the Beat, makes you feel genuinely guilty for killing her. Unlike the other bosses in the game, the Beat isn't really a threat to you. She's a young and inexperienced fighter who decided to swear her life to watching over you, just to be able to protect her planet. Throughout your fight with the Beat, the girl keeps pleading with you to stop and leave her world be. But the only thing you can do is callously break down her defenses and make your way to her to deliver the final blow. There's no way out of the fight once you're in it, but on the bright side, the Beat's showcase of humanity is why a lot of players decide to save the world in the end instead of invading it like their character originally intended. Number 6. Marlon, The Walking Dead. Marlon is one of the main characters in Season 4 of Telltale's Walking Dead game. He's the leader of the group of teenagers and children that Clementine and AJ join early in the story. Although at first Marlon appears to be a very competent figurehead, and he's even kind enough to immediately invite Clementine and AJ to join his group, you eventually find out he's been secretly giving away some of his friends to a group of raiders, so that they wouldn't draft all of his people into becoming child soldiers. This revelation obviously puts Marlon in a bad light, but this said, he definitely doesn't deserve being shot in the head by AJ as he is toward the end of the first half of the game. After all, right before his death, Marlon explains that he was put in a difficult situation, and he even shows genuine remorse, indicating he wants to fix his past mistakes and make amends. The thing is, even if you try to give Marlon a second chance, AJ still shoots him dead, no matter what. Well, the characters in Telltale games might remember your actions, but they sure as hell don't give a damn about them. Number 5. Paarthurnax, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Paarthurnax is the ancient dragon from Skyrim who lives atop High Hrothgar, serving the Greybeards as their master and tutor. Paarthurnax is easily one of Skyrim's most beloved characters, as he's one of the few rare dragons who overcame their cruel nature and instead uses his knowledge of the voice to guide Dragonborn to his destiny. Unfortunately, if you plan on joining the Blades, you're gonna have to slay this old scaly sage. Yep, the only way to progress through the Blades storyline, the organization that supposedly exists to aid the Dragonborn, is to kill Paarthurnax. After you finish your dealings with Delphine, the woman gives you an ultimatum and tells you that if the two of you are to continue working together, you have to prove your dedication to the cause by killing the very same creature that helps you figure out how to defeat Alduin. When you confront Paarthurnax about it, the dragon tells you exactly why Delphine's vendetta against dragons is wrong, which, combined with his highly likable personality, is why some Skyrim players never finish the Blades questline. Those that do bear the guilt of taking out the only good dragon in the game for the rest of their playthrough. So, yeah. Number 4. Ketheric Thorm, Baldur's Gate 3. The three main antagonists of Baldur's Gate 3 are by no means good people. After all, you wouldn't really expect the chosen gods of tyranny, murder, and necromancy to be walking saints. However, whereas Orin and Gortash have few redeeming qualities, most of which are belonging to the latter half of the duo, Ketheric Thorm, the chosen of Merkel, does at least have a good sympathetic reason to be the way he is. Throughout the course of Act 2, you learn that Ketheric was a man who could never catch a break in his whole damn life. Despite being a devoted servant of Selûne, the goddess didn't spare him the grief of suddenly losing his daughter and wife, which plunged him into a crisis of faith. Everything Ketheric has done, from serving two evil gods to agreeing to follow through on Gortash's plans of world dominance, was done to find a way to resurrect his daughter and bring back what the original god took from him after years of loyal service. Unfortunately, Thorm's grief has taken such a huge toll on him that even if you convince him to atone for his sins, he'll end up taking his own life, and you'll still need to fight the avatar of his necromantic god, Merkel. Well, can't say he didn't try. Number 3. Jean, No More Heroes. The assassins from No More Heroes are all fun characters that you'd feel bad killing if it weren't for the fact that they're all twisted killers themselves. That said, the game's final boss, Jean, might be the exception here, because even though she's a ruthless murder machine, you can't help but root for her due to her extremely tragic and downright disturbing backstory. Although you don't hear most of it in-game due to Jean's explanation being sped up for comedic effect, before the final boss fight, Jean reveals to Travis that she's his half-sister, and that the only reason she entered the Assassin's Tournament was to take revenge on her father and Travis after the former sexually abused her and drove her mother to suicide. Jean had to resort to prostitution to pay for her martial arts classes and ensure she could kill her abusive father right in front of Travis. So given all she's been through, it feels almost criminal to let her revenge go unfulfilled and deny her the chance at a happy ending. Especially when you realize that the only reason Travis entered the competition was to have sex with his brother's ex-wife. Number 2. Great Grey Wolf Sith, Dark Souls. The Great Grey Wolf Sith is considered the ultimate good girl of the Dark Souls series, not just because she's a giant fluffy wolf wielding a huge sword in her mouth, but also because her tragic backstory paints her as a loyal and noble creature. Sif is the canine companion of the Dark Souls' greatest knight, Artorias. who always stayed by his side. Even after her master is corrupted by the Abyss, Sif does her best to protect his grave and guard its defiled contents so that no one else suffers Artorias' fate. Unfortunately, Sif's loyalty and sense of duty are exactly why you ultimately have to kill her. Because Artorias' grave is on your path and you require the ring inside of it to progress through the story, your character will inevitably have to fight Sif, and seeing as she isn't a wolf who abandons her mission, your encounter can only end with death. On the flip side, later in the game, you can actually summon Sif's spirit to protect you, so at the very least, the wolf seems to forgive you for putting her down. Number 1. Ascore Undertale. The genocide run of Undertale can be a pretty heartbreaking experience. If you first finish the game as a pacifist, having to kill all the monsters you became friends with can be a bit too much, which is why some Undertale players opt out of doing this particular run completely. Unfortunately, even if you play the game exclusively in pacifist mode, there is one character that will die anyway: King Ascore. Ascore serves as Undertale's final boss. He's a sweet and friendly monster, but when you meet him, he'll force you to battle him and then destroy the mercy button, so you have to kill him or die trying. It might seem out of character for Ascore to be so bent on spilling blood, but the king actually does do it for a reason. If you die, he can use your soul to help the monsters escape the underground, and if you defeat him, you can use his soul to escape instead. His decision to force you into a battle to the death is his ultimate sacrifice, which honestly makes him that much harder to finish off. Thankfully, if you play through the entire pacifist run, there is a way to bring him back to life.